Okay, so this class is being recorded, right? So first of all, our topic today is coping with emotional distance. What you do when someone you love begins to create a distance, when begin to pull away. And of course, there are a lot of things that can make people do that, from pressure to rejection and societal, what society has portrayed. A lot of things contribute to that. And so you may not even know the reason why someone is pulling away from you. Now, if this person, whoever it is who is pulling away from you, if they don't really matter to you, if there's no closeness, there's no relationship, it won't affect you that much. You will just move on, right? You will just move on with life. But if it's a case where this person is someone that you are close to, someone you love, someone you built a level of connection with, you are going to have that, you would feel terrible. Okay, they're pulling away. It can take a toll on us. And that's how it is psychologically. That's how it is naturally with human beings. And then there's a tendency to, especially if you are dealing with a spouse, or maybe someone that, for example, your child, your friend, your very good friend, your best friend, or a spouse, it can be very um, emotionally draining, mentally draining, things like that. You tend to lose yourself if you're not careful. You tend to lose yourself because you're like, oh, this is not the person I used to know. Um, the connection is not there again, and you are wondering if you're going to lose this person forever. Sometimes you are scared of losing the person forever and you don't know what to do. So the natural reaction might be to maybe either you withdraw and accept, or you just keep chasing, keep pushing. So I want us to discover if that is the right method. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen right now. Let me first of all, I want to show you, because before I dive into what you can do about the entire situation, I would like to show you something. This is a this is from AI. So I wanted to find out what AI thinks about this particular topic. And so AI gave me this answer. I said, okay, what if I just asked a random question? What if someone that you are really close to, all of a sudden they decide to stay away? What do you do? And this is what AI gave. Of course, this is not what I'm here to teach us, because there are practical steps that I have practiced, practical steps that have helped other people practice to navigate this kind of challenge and similar challenges. Okay, but this is what AI said. AI said, number one, accept what is. Notice, don't chase. So as I'm telling you what AI said, I'm going to also explain what I think AI meant. I don't know, though AI does not, it doesn't think like us, right? So, but I'll try and explain what I think AI meant before I now dive into my class. Okay. AI said, number one, accept what is. Notice, don't change. Their change may have little to do with you. Drop the old them narrative. People evolve. Sometimes their path simply moves away from ours. Number two, check your inner story. Ask yourself, am I personalizing their behavior? Separate their choices from your worth. Their distance is not proof that you are unlovable. This is actually nice, knowing that their choices is not your worth. It doesn't determine your worth. Okay. Number three, communicate calmly and clearly. If the relationship matters, invite a conversation. You can say, I've sensed some distance between us. There's something you would like to share. Share observations, not accusations. Listen more than you speak. You can't force openness. only offer it? Well, first one, set gentle boundaries. Decide what you can give without resentment. Protect your energy. Limit overthinking. Stop replaying unanswered text and avoid begging for connection. I think this part is trying to say that you have to just preserve your mental energy. Okay, you can't overdo. Just stop overthinking it. Try to preserve your mental energy. Number 5 is like fill your own cup. Support system like friends, family, a counselor, a support group, daily grounding, journaling, prayer, meditation, movement, time in nature. Reinvest in hobbies and personal growth. Remind yourself that your life is bigger than this one relationship. Not bad. Grieve the shifts if needed. It's normal to mourn the closeness you once had. Allow sadness without shame. Healing starts with honest feeling. Then number 7, decide next step. Relationships ebb and flow. Sometimes they connect naturally, sometimes you must let go. Choose continued closeness. Only if it's mutual and healthy. Choose continued closeness. Only if it's mutual and healthy. I love that actually. Because the truth is some relationships have expiring dates. Not all relationships will last forever. Okay, so at the point where you know that this relationship is no longer serving your growth, it's no longer healthy, it's no longer benefiting you, it's making you mentally deteriorate, then maybe it's time to end that relationship or that friendship. Now we're talking about relationship and friendship now. It's not the same as marriage, where you've already said I do and you're there. But don't worry, we are getting to that aspect. Okay, so now we're done with what AI said. I don't know, you can take some time to ponder through everything that we've just gone through. Okay, so it's not really bad, but let me go to my topic for today. Okay. Just 1 second, please. Right, so these are practical steps to dealing with emotional distance. Practical steps proven to deal with emotional distance. My very first will be communicating well and calmly. Okay, let me be sure this thing is still going. And I might need to turn off my camera. Okay, so communicate well and calmly. Can we still see my screen? Let me just be sure.
Oh, I
Can
can't
we
see
still
your
see my
screen.
screen?
No.
Okay, you can't see the screen because you're supposed to be sharing my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first on my list would be communicate well, calmly, and very clearly. Now, when it comes to communication, because when things like this happen, we tend to personalize the matter. The brain has different cognitive distortions. Now, this is psychology. The common cognitive distortions, there are a lot of them. Let's briefly look at all of them, or some of them, I mean. Like all or nothing thinking. And all or nothing thinking is like seeing things in extremes. They're either good or they are bad. For example, if you view an event as either a success or a failure, there is no in between. That's like a cognitive distortion. So that is what make people conclude that they are failures, because maybe they are planning something and it didn't go exactly as planned. So they say, oh, if I'm not perfect, that means I'm a failure, I'm a total failure. Meanwhile, nobody is perfect. Another cognitive distortion is overgeneralizing a situation, making a broad conclusion based on an event. So if for example you failed an exam, you would have this fear because you feel like since you didn't pass the first one, that means you will always fail. there is that fear, and there is that lack of confidence. It brings a lack of confidence. There's another one called mental filtering, meaning that you focus only on the negative details while ignoring the positive details. For example, you'd be like, oh, okay, everybody, everybody, for example, if you did well in your presentation and people are saying, oh, you did well, but there is one person that did not say anything, and be like, oh, I must have done terribly. And usually the person is that maybe the person you honor. For example, if your mentor was in the program and she didn't really say anything, in your heart be like, ah, that means it must have been terrible. But you forget that all other people, all the other people who were, congratulating you and saying, wow, this was good. So that is mental filtering. Then another one is jumping into conclusions. And there are two types of these are divided into two subtypes, like mind reading. For example, oh, if somebody did not smile at you, maybe you started noticing that person, and all of a sudden they don't smile at you, hey, they don't like you. Usually, maybe if the person is a celebrity, it usually happens when there is someone that's high in whole regard or in whole esteem, and the person is shaking other people, giving them a handshake, and then something happened and he did not come to your line, or he did not come to you, and then you now draw a conclusion out of it. There is something like fortune telling, just predicting that, oh, things will not go your way. Then there is also, magnification. Something small happened and then you now make it so big in your eyes. There is this thing about life. It comes from psychology, and that is the fact that a problem is only a problem because you made it a problem. I just thank God for the Holy Spirit and everything, because sometimes problems should just come and there is this tendency to want to just die because that problem in your head is just seeming so big. Meanwhile, the same problem can happen to another person and it doesn't feel that way. But you are the one that is magnetizing the problem in your mind, and then you now conclude that, oh, this ground should just open and swallow me, something like that. There is emotional reasoning, believing that because you feel something, that means that thing that you feel must be true. There is even a fallacy of fairness, which is believing that life should be fair. Life should be fair. Oh, it's not fair. And then you now be resentful because it's not fair. So you now begin to attack everybody around you. You are like, you just change. There is heaven's reward fallacy. You feel like, oh, because you've been doing something in a particular way, automatically life should give you good things or should bring good things your way. And the thing is, life is not like that. Life is not like that, and that's why many times you have to speak what you want to see, okay, and enforce it. Then there is fallacy of change, believing that others must change for you to be happy. Meanwhile, happiness lies with you. So these are some cognitive distortions. But the one I want to really take, the one I want to focus now in this event is personalization and blame. Personalization is like making things about you. When it does not go your way, it's not always about you. Or maybe there's something I did, or maybe there's something that is wrong with me, or maybe I should have just done this like this, I should have done it like this. It happens to everybody. Like, until you've trained yourself to an extent, all of these cognitive distortions will keep on going on in your mind, and it's like a battle. That's why many times it seems like Satan is winning in our lives, because he starts from the mind first. All of these things are lies that he puts in our head and tries to feed us. Now, medicine or science has called it cognitive distortions. But if you can train yourself, you can get over these things. And if you notice, from everything that we've mentioned, from all the cognitive distortions I mentioned, there is one or two that applies more to you than the others. So the one I'm focusing on in this class is personalization and blame. When you are taking responsibility for things that are outside your control, or blaming others unfairly, you did something about it, but yet you feel like something went wrong, and you say, oh, maybe I should have done this. Oh, are you sure I shouldn't have done it this way? Are you sure? Meanwhile, that thing, in reality, that thing is not even about you. And that's where we should. This is one thing we should consider when it comes to communicating. This is the reason why we should communicate. Because the minute the person starts pulling away, we tend to personalize the issue. Oh, what have I done? What did I, but I've been doing everything right. Is it that I not do this one this way? Meanwhile, it's not even about you. The person is not, you are not even there. Like, there's so much going on, and it's not really about you. So in order to find out, instead of personalizing it, instead of taking responsibility for this particular emotional distance that is just beyond you, there is a need to communicate. Instead of personalizing it, ask questions. Now, how do you communicate? This is one thing that we should learn, how to communicate. When you want to communicate, don't focus on what people are not doing. Instead, rely on the problem you've observed and how it makes you feel and what you prefer instead. Now, let me explain. For example, you invited somebody for a party, for your party, and the person did not show. So you want to, you know that in your heart, it made you feel, this person, in your heart, the real problem is not that the person did not show for the party. The real problem is that it seems like this person does not take anything that concerns you. The person, he or she, does not take it seriously. You now start remembering, oh, there was a time that you even told the person, oh, do this for me, and the person just ignored it. You said, do this for me, and the person just ignored it. Or maybe there is one thing or the other. That's where the real problem is coming from. The real problem is the fact that it has made you feel, how the person acts towards you has made you feel like you don't matter to the person. Meanwhile, this person matters to you, but you now feel like you don't matter to the person, and you're not even sure. Like, now, because you invited the person for a party and the person did not come, all of a sudden you now say, oh, you did not come for my party. You now start making a big deal out of the fact that the person did not come for your party. To the extent that the person now start asking, are you sure it's just about this party or is that something else? You will just find out that that's bad communication there. Because instead of focusing on, oh, they didn't come for my birthday party, why don't you just tell them, okay, the thing is, I've noticed that over time, you don't seem to apply efforts. I'm not seeing you applying any effort to this friendship. You don't do this for me. I asked you to do this the other day. You didn't do this one. And then when I even texted you and all those kind of things, that it makes me feel like you don't really take me seriously. Like, I just feel like I'm just the one putting energy into it and all of that. That's how to communicate. So the person now actually knows what the problem is. And then you now say what you prefer. If you can return the energy, I will be grateful. If you can do this when I need it, if you can do this, even though you try to be understanding, because it's not everything the person might do. You give person room to explain. Okay, what happened in all those times where he did not, reach out. And when as you are communicating, you've communicated, and you have to be very honest. When you are done, just tell the person, be very honest with him. Don't need to try to make me lie, just make me feel better. No, it's not helping me. I really need to understand what is going on, because by you understanding the person, you creating that room for understanding, will build that relationship, will build that friendship. That is how it works. Even if it's with your child, your friend, your sibling, your fiance, the person you're courting, or your spouse, in any kind of close relationship, this is the method that works. It's an effective way of communication. If you want to, for example, when it comes to parenting, let's dive a bit into that. And you want to, in order to correct a child, I believe you need to get a level of connection with the child. Because if you're just trying to correct the child outside of connection, you will not be getting it right. Many times the child will be seeing you as an attacker because you don't even understand them and they don't understand you. There's so much misunderstanding, and that misunderstanding is coming from lack of communication. So you're not communicating what you want, and the person is not. There was a time that this happened with my mom. So I will just tell this story briefly as an example. and then I didn't do something. But there were other things in the house that I had helped her with. So when she kept complaining about that one thing, it made me feel like, is it that I started asking myself, is it that with everything I've done means nothing? I felt so bad because I felt like she was not being grateful. Then there was just this one thing, and she was just paying so much attention to that thing. So I just waited for her, and she talked and talked and talked. And then I just asked one question. I said, Mommy, is it that everything I did, I started mentioning the things I did. I mentioned everything one by one. Is it that all of them is not what you wanted? I wanted her to just tell me this and open to me. Is it that this is not what you wanted? You wanted something else. She now took a deep breath and calmed down and said, okay, the actual problem is not that you didn't do this thing. She now told me what the real problem is. And now told me what she would have preferred. And that was because I was feeling so bad when she was saying that. You know what most children will do, because the parents have made it in such a way that the children cannot speak up again. So they have to just take whatever comes. So as the parents is just voicing out all those things, the children will just be like, no matter what you do, we cannot impress mom. Anyway, let's just do anyhow, anyhow. And before you know it, it makes them they become very reluctant about anything you say or do, because they are always seeing you as you are just there to just nag, you're just there to just say whatever you want to say. And that is not, yeah, the connection is not there at all. In that way, you can't even correct. They may want to do something while you're around, just for that respect, but the message is not being given home because of lack of communication. So you find out that this lack of communication problem, it has eaten into many homes and into many families, into many relationships, because we don't know how to communicate. The way you communicate is, ask yourself, what is the actual problem? It's not, many times it's not that thing you're complaining about. If you are going to actually tell yourself the truth, it's not that thing you are complaining about. There is something, there is a bigger picture that has sent, probably sent the wrong message to you, and it's making you feel terrible, making you feel like, oh, okay, you need to shout, which that is one of the things you should not do when it comes to communicate. If you want to communicate well, you're going to be learning some of the you're going to be learning some of the do's and don'ts of communication. Please, 1 second. So that's one thing about communication. So these are some the don'ts about communication. Communication, you cannot communicate well with insults. You know, people that there are some there is a group of people that when you do something that they don't like, of course, we are all human beings, so nobody is perfect. So at a point, you're going to do something that somebody does not like, somebody that you are under or something does not like. Some people believe that, okay, since you're an adult and they cannot beat you or they cannot flog you, that the way they would get to you to annoy, like to make that for doing this thing and making it pain them, let them do the one that will pay you back, so that you will learn in their head, you will learn from it. Next time you will not do it. That's their own way of correcting, is by insults. So before you know it, they start saying that you don't know anything. That's how you are so useless. That you are very stupid. What kind of nonsense? Before you know, they are insulting you. They will go before you know it, they are going to your family, your generation, this one, that one. You cannot communicate well with insults. It rather portrays you as an attacker. So that person is seeing someone coming to attack me. They can't get it. The next time they may try to do something, maybe to avoid the insult, which is why people think that this particular method works. What they're just doing is they're trying to avoid you. Some of them, if it's growing up with kids, the kids might try to impress them to know whether okay the insult can be turned to praises, but over time the insult never changes. And of course the communication is not even that well, because the only thing that the kids will work on is that particular thing you're talking about, but the message, the point you are trying to drive home, they don't get it. So when they even get older and they don't even see the point of that thing, they can just drop it easily. I don't know if I'm making sense, but you cannot communicate well with insult at all. And the best way to teach a child to communicate well is when at that stage when they are children, when you can try to you now start making them think about what the real problem is by the way you communicate with them, so they can grow up, and by the age of 17, 18, 19, 20, they are already thinking and acting mature because of how you grew them, because that's how you've been communicating with them. So they don't have to insult people just to communicate. They don't have to blame people. They don't have to necessarily shout, because most of those things that adults portray is coming from the families where they are raised. So you can't communicate well with insults. You can't communicate well with the blame game. Using words like, oh, you never, like for example, you are always busy. You never care about me. You're always talking about this and that. You are already doing the wrong thing, because what you're saying is that, for example, if you say you never care about me, meanwhile the person that are saying you never care about me must have done things to you to show that they care, but maybe they are not speaking it in the language that you want, and they don't even know. And this is something that communication can solve. But what do? You just say they never care about me. It's like you are reading out everything they've ever done. And to them, what they are now saying is that, oh, this person is not grateful with everything I'm doing. So you can't use words like that. Instead, just state what exactly the problem is. State what it seems like. The best way to put it is like, it seems like this is what is happening. The reason why you're putting it as it seems like is because it might not actually be what it is. But to you, because of from what you've observed, that is what it seems like to you. Then you tell them how it makes you feel and tell them what you prefer, and it will be so simple. In fact, it doesn't need to even take more than just a few sentences, because some of us are used to saying one thing over and over and over and over again. That's how you say all these things. When you use these four things like shouting, yelling, using the blame game, and insulting to try to communicate, that is what makes people see you as a nag. And it's not only, we don't only have nagging spouse, we have nagging friends, we have nagging siblings, we have nagging parents, right? So you can't communicate well by the blame game. You can't communicate well by shouting and yelling. I have this formula, and that formula is that whatever you try to communicate calmly and it does not enter, like if you try to say something, if you try to communicate something in a calm way and that thing does not enter, that means even if you shouted, it wouldn't have entered. That's the truth. So people sometimes we shout out of emotion, like the person made you angry. In that case, if there is still need for it, you can still go back and now talk calmly in a way that something happened recently that I had to, I didn't really shout. It's just that my choice of words, they were not bad in particular, but they are not so great. Someone pulled me out of work, a work I was doing, and then just like that, just put me without any explanation. So I sent him a text and I said, please, I'm not going out. I'm going to be involved in this and I'm going to stay to the very end. So the way I said it and everything, because it only increased the tension. It increased the tension, though I didn't really shout. But later on, I had to go back and now carefully explain. By then, I have calmed down and I have given it a very a good thought. That's why sometimes you need to just give yourself time to calm down. One thing about trying to handle every situation head on as it's coming is that you don't give yourself time to reason. So you may not find the right words to communicate well. And so it comes back at you, it comes back to attack you instead of helping you out. Sometimes you need to sit down and reason and pick out words to say to the person. When you say it calmly, the person will just understand. Like, I reasoned the thing and I went back to the person and I just said, okay, this is actually what I meant. After apologizing, of course, this is actually what I meant. And of course, the person got it. And then that's how the issue was resolved. Especially when you're dealing with someone that you know is a friendly person, someone that you know that normally, you just know that this is just a misunderstanding. If there is nothing you can't resolve that thing with shouting. It can be resolved amicably. So whatever you try to say calmly to somebody and the person did not get it, it did not enter. That means even if you had shouted, that thing will not enter. The last thing you should not do when you are trying to communicate is just using a phrase or a clause or a sentence with no explanation. For example, you just say things like, well, you don't have prospects. What does that mean? Can you just tell somebody that the person does not have prospects? Meanwhile, that person is someone that has a plan for his life, has vision for his life. Just because you could not sense the person's the area or the part of life the person is going does not mean that person does not have prospects. You have to explain what you mean. Saying things like, oh, you're not good enough. How do you mean? What do you mean by you are not good enough? What did you observe in the person that makes you feel like the person is not good enough or the person is not serious? If you can communicate it, it can even help that person to be better because people only work on what they understand. So if you say, okay, this is where you're not getting it right, the way you approach your work, the way you talk to your colleagues, just mention the things that you stated. You are communicating well. By the time you are done mentioning those things, the person will take those things one after the other. If it's somebody that has sense, they will take it one after the other and begin to work on it. But you can't just say one sentence without any explanation and then you think that you've communicated something. You've not communicated anything. Even if anything, you just made it worse. So it doesn't using a sentence without no explanation does not drive the point home. You have to state what exactly they are not doing right and how it makes you feel about them and about yourself and what you would prefer. You don't have to nag, you don't have to actually even talk for long. If you can just state the point, that's all. Communication is done. Okay. So this one is number 2. We are still on communication. Invite honest conversation about that person, whether it's your friend. Choose a calm moment. Use I language. You can say, okay, I've sensed this distance between us and it's getting me worried. I want to understand what's going on. Is there something that happened? Okay, I think this happened to with a friend, you know, recently too. I was also noticing something like something was not right. It seemed like he wasn't okay. I noticed a few changes, so I had to reach out and I have to ask him, oh, is there any problem? Did something happen? And of course, I found out that something happened. There was a bad news, and that was why he was like that. So many times it may not even be about you, but if you can just say, oh, is something happening with you? Sometimes just try to make it not about you, make it about the other person, and try to find out if they are okay, if they are all right. Then, as you ask the question, listen without interrupting, and first empathize with them. Don't be too quick to provide solution. They didn't even ask you for a solution. There are some of us that we just feel like, okay, the way to show care and kindness, maybe can offer a bit of a solution. Is You don't have to be quick to offer solution. First of all, empathize with the person and give them time before you can now maybe say, okay, I was thinking maybe this can help you or something like that. So if you try to ask questions and they deflect your question, maybe they still don't want to talk about anything, you may just have to leave them. or you can gently just persist, right? But you may have to just leave them. They need this space. Maybe they are not ready to talk about it. Okay. And then one thing about this thing is that if you're trying to make them tell you what is wrong, you can just promise them that you will not judge them. But another thing is, if they've trusted you before with information of what they are going through, or of one or two things that happened to them, and at some point you use that information against them, they most likely will not trust you with information again. I want that to sink in. If that person has trusted you, ever trusted you in the past with information, and then you, after they trusted you with that information, you use the information against them in one way or the other. Maybe you brought it back in a very demeaning way or something later on, maybe during an argument. It doesn't even matter what it was. They most likely will not trust you with information again. So that means you would have to gain that trust. You have to gain the trust again. And after, if you eventually gain the trust, you have to do whatever you can to keep that trust. So that's it for communication. The next thing is to ground yourself well. Now, there are some times that even when you try communicating and everything, for example, if you communicate with them and they tell you what the problem is, I have to say this: if they tell you what the problem is, the first thing you do is, I mentioned that you should empathize with them. In empathizing with them, make sure that what you are saying, it has the ability to give mental strength. Because when you are going through a problem, the first place it drains is the mind. That's why that's why the Bible says that, if you fall in the day of adversity, your strength is small. The strength actually is, first of all, the mental strength. Because every problem is a wisdom problem. So a problem can come to you. When a problem comes, the first goal of that problem is to create doubt, is to like sink faith, create fear and doubt. So it's an attack on the mind first, before any other thing. That's one of the, for example, if you notice that you seem to have a problem, that worry that is coming in your mind, is attacking your mind first. It's from your mind that every other thing begins to come up. It's from whatever if you allow it to win, is to start determining your actions, your words, your emotions, your thoughts. What else? Your hormones. All these 5 things I mentioned, they are interconnected. They are very related. But if you can focus on that mind and build mental strength, what I mean by building mental strength is building back faith and hope. Then you can win in that battle. There are 3 things. The Bible calls them 3 cardinal virtues. That these 3 things energizes the mind whenever you have a problem, or whenever, in fact, at any time of the day, whether you have a problem or not, there are 3 things that energize your mind. It's number 1 is faith, second one hope, third one love. So that sometimes that, if, for example, I don't know if this happens to you, but when you are going through a challenge, if there's someone you love, you have a spouse that you love, that love is still there, and that person is by your side, there's a strength it gives you. Then even if maybe there's nobody you love, or maybe there's someone you love, but someone speaks word of faith to you. For example, you now go to church and you hear one thing like that, you can be so re-energized. You came there feeling so down, so depressed, so sad, you didn't know what happened. You will just hear those words, it builds faith and it brings back hope. When hope is lost, when faith is nowhere to be found, when there is nothing like love, you can easily tell, because the person just becomes weak, gives up. You can tell that the person has given up on life. on life. So it's like depression has set in. The person is not seeing anything good about the world again. That's because that person, and that's why if Satan wants to attack you, it's those things that you drain first. So to fight back, you have to feed those things, feed on whatever feeds faith, and starve the doubt. The reason why I brought this up is because if you're going to help that person, if you're going to help that person, the way you're going to help that person is to energize their mind or their minds. So if you're going to be empathizing with them concerning if they share the problem with you, you want to empathize with them, you're speaking to their minds. The focus is on the mind. And if you are wise, you can tell when it's not time to preach. You can tell that maybe it's just time to just show love for the meantime and give hope. You can just tell what to do. And the wisdom will not, what wisdom will drive you to do will not be outside these three things I mentioned: faith, hope, and love. So you're going to empathize with them and make them feel loved. If you don't know any other thing to do, love is the greatest among all of them. If you don't know any other thing to do, that one of love, make them feel loved. So that's not the time to come and start reminding them of something they said that is still hot. That's not the time to come and start bringing up things that are not necessary. It's not the time. It's not the time to say, that's why you've not been doing this one. It's because you've not do this one. Even after I told you to do this one. In fact, if you want to tell them I told you so, just try and hold the I told you so. Maybe you warned them about that particular situation before, they did not listen. Maybe later on you can now say I told you so. It's not at that point, because their minds are very fragile at that point. Why? Because faith, hope, and love most likely have reduced. What they need is something that will stir it back up so that their minds will be re-energized. So it's not the time to come and start using whatever they said in the past against them. That is one thing I really wanted us to point out before we move. So the second thing is ground yourself first. So there are sometimes where you are trying to get to the person, but the person is still keeping away. They don't want to tell you what is going on with them. They just want to be on their own. Even there are sometimes when probably you're trying everything you can and nothing is working. There are times like that. Okay, there are times like that. Though if is someone who is mature minded, someone who is emotionally and psychologically healthy and all of that, most likely they will share with you depending on your manner of approach. If you come with the right manner of approach and you make them feel love, like what I said and everything, they will share with you, especially if they trust you. If they come to trust you to an extent, they will confide in you. But in a case where maybe they don't confide in you, maybe they just want to push you away, they want to stay away from you, for whatever reason it is, maybe, and that this problem is really eating them up. And I'm talking about in a situation of maybe this is a spouse. This is a relationship that just can't end, because if it's a relationship between a parent and a child, that kind of relationship cannot end just like that, because you will always be the parent, the other one will always be the child. If it's a relationship between siblings, that okay, this is something you need to deal with, okay, and spouse too. So, but you really want to help them because you are seeing that this person is drowning in their problems, in their sorrows, and you've tried to communicate and it's not working. You've tried to encourage. Maybe you're not even sure if you're using the right words. You're not sure what is going on again. There is something you can do, because at the point, their actions can begin to also drain you too. Because this is someone that you love. You're trying to help them out of this situation, and it doesn't seem to be working. So that thing they are doing can begin to drain you too mentally. Before you know it, you start losing it. Be like, this is not the person I used to know. I don't know what else to do. You begin to, so you may start crying. You may start asking God for help. Some, like, if you are a believer like me, you even want to lock a room and pray in the Holy Ghost for hours till you feel that peace, and it's not bad. But one thing I want to say is that you have to ground yourself first, like protecting your mind and your body. And what I mean is that when you notice that that situation is beginning to drain you too mentally, that means it's time for you to work on yourself and build back your mental strength. Because it's only when you have strength that you can give strength. You cannot help that person if you are also mentally drained. I want to say it again. It's only when you have the mental strength and the energy to help someone that you can give that you can give strength. If you are also down, you cannot help somebody that is down. So the best way to do it is to begin to feed on material. Just switch environment. And switching environment does not mean it has to be physical. If you feel like going on a retreat that involves physical changing of environment, you can do that. But you don't necessarily have to change your physical environment. Because some people, anyway, if I say change your physical environment, some people may be worried that, oh, okay, what if I go and this person harms himself? You don't trust the way maybe the person has started drinking, has started drug abuse due to depression and everything, and you're trying to still help the person out. Probably this person is your friend, and you don't know what else to do. That's not the time. You can switch environment. The person is not a baby. You can take care of himself. You can switch environment physically and retreat if that will help you at that point, because you even need to reserve your own mental energy and also feed that mental energy to help that person. So if it will require you to separate yourself from that environment and go to another environment, then do so. But just changing physical environment is not enough. That's why I say you don't even have to change physical environment, because the main thing is not changing physical environment. The main thing is changing the environment around you. Let me call it radiating environment. The radiating environment, the environment is around you. That's what you need to change. And how do you do that? You need to change what you hear and what you see. So these are the mistakes that some of us do, because you are relating with this person, and the person, by relating with the person and with the person's reaction and the person's actions, the fact that the person is giving an emotional distance, it will begin to drain you too. And then what do? You tend to now start going on social media to just scroll away mindlessly, or you go to YouTube to watch movies so you can just forget about the pain that is causing you and forget about everything. You just want to have that release, that relief, mental relief. And then you think that going through YouTube and watching movies is going to make you happy, or is going to give you that relief. Meanwhile, you're going about it the wrong way. Probably the person too is also doing the same thing, or maybe the person has succumbed to alcohol abuse and substance abuse, because that's the only coping mechanism that the person can realize. Then you're now going to succumb to something similar, scrolling through social media, watching movies. You are not even helping yourself, because you are also draining yourself, even as the person is drained. What you're supposed to do instead is that's the right time to go and start watching things that will feed those three virtues I talked about. Now, the one that can go at that point is just, there are a lot of sermons on YouTube that can bring back hope, bring back faith, bring love. Like, to just pour the message of these three things into your mind, and before you know it, you start getting energized. Why don't you just take 10 to 14 days? Because it has been scientifically proven that the time it can take for you to begin experiencing change in your mind, that you begin to see, what will I call it now? Significant change mentally. 14 days. Even if you're trying to deal with addiction, you're trying to um you're trying to flush an information away from your subconscious mind and replace it with another information. By the 14th day, you see a significant change if you're doing it consistently every day, morning, afternoon, night, or morning and night. It's like taking medicine. So if I tell you to take a medicine as a doctor, I tell you take this medicine for 10 days or for 14 days, morning and night, and you take it in day one, day two, day three, then you come back to my hospital and say, oh, doctor, I'm not seeing any effect. I asked you how many days you've taken it. You say I've taken it for only 3 days. I will chase you away if it's even possible. Like if it's allowed, assuming it was allowed in the medical ethics, I'll carry broom and chase you out of my clinic because you're not serious. You're supposed to take that thing for 14 days and you're taking it on day three and you're coming to tell me, oh doctor, the symptoms are still there. You've not even gone half. It's like taking medicine morning and night. But the first few days will seem tough, especially the first 3 days. It will seem so tough. But you have to continue it. So feed on things, feed on materials. Just feed your faith, feed hope, feed love, and start everything that promotes doubt in that moment. That's how you re-energize your mind. Here, what it was written here is you eat, you sleep, you move, you pray, you meditate. If you can do all of these things, because what you are one of apart from re-energizing your mind, you need to also be sure that your body is safe. Because when you are mentally drained, it tells on the way you take care of your body too. So if you're going through depression, you will not be looking well groomed. That's how we can even tell. Anybody can tell that something is wrong by how you are looking. You don't look well or properly groomed. Most people that are depressed, that you can easily tell by how they look. But you need to take care of yourself. So as you are re-energizing your mind, you are sleeping well, you are doing proper exercises and all of that. That's how you can help the other person. Because if you are mentally drained, you cannot help that other person. So that's the second way to go about it. These are practical steps. Then the third way is strengthening your side of the relationship. Like I said, you cannot strengthen any side of the relationship when you are not strengthened yourself. So by the time you've gone through the process of re-energizing your mind, of doing kind of exercises that will strengthen faith, strengthen hope, strengthen love, when you've gone through those things and then you feel that strength, bring back strength on your own side of the relationship. You can keep kindness in your gestures, respectful communication, shared routines, and all of that. Just try to do your best. Try to begin feeding the person with the faith now that you've been able to feed your mind with. And of course, when you start, even when you are re-energized, you don't stop listening to those things or feeding on those things that re-energizes your mind. You don't stop because you are about to feed somebody else with that strength. So if you keep feeding the person, you don't know what the person is going to throw back at you that might drain you if you're not careful. So you need to keep feeding yourself. You need to keep re-energizing your mind. You shouldn't stop. Even though you are re-energized, you should keep feeding on those things while you are reaching out to that person to try to pull them out of that pit. So keep kindness in your actions, small gestures, shared routines, respectful communication. Don't overcompensate or beg for affection. It will only fuel resentment. Sometimes what the person just needs is space. So once in a while, you can just come and check up on the person. Say, I just wanted to know how you are doing. Drop some things that can still show the person that you care and you still love the person. And just don't do too much because they may not need it at that particular moment. Okay. Then the next one is for marriage. Like it's not just for marriage too. If it's the sibling, of course, whatever relationship it is, you need to build a life. You need to have a life outside of that. But because I'm saying this because it can affect you more if this person is someone that you're married to. Like this person is like a partner, the flesh of your flesh, bone of your bones. It's going to really have a toll on you. So doing the steps that I've already talked about, like re-energizing your mind and all of that will definitely help you. But then you have to have a life, a full life outside marriage. And when you have building a full life outside marriage, it's not something that should happen only when there is issue in the marriage. Okay, it's something that should have been there. You're supposed to have built a full life outside marriage. But if you have not, you can begin to do that. Nurture friendship, interest, spiritual life. Nurture your spiritual life, your career growth. It does not mean that you're abandoning the person. It's just that you're also preserving your own wholeness. You're also preserving your own wholeness. And here I wrote, because you are not defined only by the marriage's climate. So that's the last on my plate. That's the last. These are the ways that you can be practical about dealing with emotional distance. I hope we learned one or two things.
Yes, so I learned to.
I hope we learned one or two things. I think. All right. Okay. All the while, when people see my screen, because I'm just realizing that I see my screen. Go show you. Are you seeing my screen all the while?
No, we're not seeing your screen. It was the audio I was listening to. In fact, it was the audio I was hearing, and your
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I think it's even now
Okay,
I'm seeing
so
your picture. It wasn't showing before.
is there any? Okay, no problem. Is there any questions? Any questions for me?
Yes, I will have questions.
Okay.
Can I go ahead? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Sorry. Thanks very much for this for your teaching. It's really a very nice one, helping us to know how to manage relationship, especially when other people start ghosting or distancing themselves. And the worst still, sometimes some of those people will still want to keep the reason secret. They wouldn't want to actually come out to open up on why they are taking the action they are taking. But whichever direction it goes, if we're able to understand the reasons why people behave the way they behave, that people have different personality traits and the rest of it, and for some relationship, is when some of them, when they serve their purpose and we discover that it's no longer serving the purpose, if the person is distancing himself, we wouldn't question so much why. But when it comes to some natural, or what I can now say, a tied relationship where one can no longer pull out, like marriage, the siblings and the children, the parentage and rest of it, it becomes more difficult to manage, because somebody said that marriage is where enemies will end sleeping in the same bed, on the same bed. No matter how it happens, you people try to manage it. And excuse me, sorry. One person, I call it a research, I don't know how the research came about, say that about 75% of marriages are actually managing their relationship. If they open up, you find out that they're actually managing it, about 75%, which means it's only about 25 that are really enjoying it. But every other person comes on Sunday and lie to every other person, glory be to God, everything is moving fine. Well, if that works for all of us, good and fine. But a situation where somebody is in a relationship, because of maybe the person's personality traits start becoming difficult, that you have applied all these emotional maturity and what have you, psychological maturity that one can, I discover that the other person may not actually be playing along or willing um, to see reasons. Yeah, we might say that everything has a, people have reasons for acting the way they act, but we know that personality traits, there are some people that you can call Jezebel, Ahab, and whatever you have, whatever name we want to give it. No matter cantankerous people, no matter how you do it, they're always looking for fault. For instance, this issue of people distancing, I try to play devil's advocate. Sometimes I send messages to people end of the month, beginning of the month, some other intervals. Some people don't respond, but sometimes I say, well, let me not pick offense. There could be so many reasons. Some maybe they didn't get it. Some got it when they didn't even have airtime or the data there. Some got it when they were not in a good mood, and so many other reasons. Usually, I just forgo it. But there are some others in life where you now discover that they have actually taken it like an entitlement. It becomes an entitlement mentality in some areas where no matter how you try to make those things, the person is distancing himself and you try to find out what is the problem and the person says, no, there's no problem, and you try and try and try. Meanwhile, this is a person that you cannot, for any reason, cut off in your life. What is the best way to manage it? Because for every other person, it is easy to say, if the person wants the distance, you give the person the distance. Then after some time, you can come back. But there are some people in the house where if you give them distance for a moment, it will spoil more things because there are some roles they're supposed to play in the other person's life. And for that period, they won't play it. So how will one manage such situations? Sorry, it's a long distance, but I try to make it so that you can understand me.
Okay. So I understand what you're saying. First of all, I understand what you're saying. Many times when things like that happen, is because probably in the past the person has tried to communicate how they feel, and no matter how much they communicate, it seems that the understanding is not there, so they give up. So they give up and now try to play from a they try to play from a distance. And in that case, given the fact that the person has tried and you are not you there is a part of where that person is coming from that you don't understand, and there is a part of where you are coming from that they don't understand. So in that case, there is a need to find a common ground. And many times finding a common ground, especially if it's in a house where you're not talking about partner again, you're talking about probably a child that some people, the thing is, when it comes to parenting, there is also need to be friends with the children. Even in as much as you have to tell them what you have to play that role of being a father or being a mother, but that you can't in the name of being a father or a mother now become a tyrant. Of course, you are being a father and a mother at the same time, still trying being that friend too. So there is a need to create that balance. Now, if it ever comes to an extent where there is a bridge that has not been created, there is still something missing, there is still a part of misunderstanding that is going on in that setting. Like I've said before, you have to find a common ground. There has to be a place where that means there must be a place, a I don't know what to call it, a situation where you and that person seems to connect in a particular
A
area.
missing link.
Eh?
Yes, you said you are trying to find. I said, could it be missing link? A missing link between the two of you.
No, what I'm trying to say is that yes, there is going to be a missing link. That I mean that there is a missing link definitely for it to be in that prep, and you've not been able to identify it. So instead of trying to focus on that missing link, why don't you focus on the part where you have connection? Because okay, like I said before, maybe you've tried to show that person that you love the person. Yes, you love the person, but they are not seeing it. That's probably because you're not showing the love in the way they understand the love, because everyone has a way that they understand love, that they can sense love, right? So um is using I'm trying to use the best words I can, going through a method of finding that connection. It's not going to be easy finding that part of connection, because there's a point where you can be able to connect with that person if you're observant and you can calm down and watch. It's just like, maybe let me take for example, you have a difficult boss. If you have a difficult boss and you can navigate your way with that difficult boss, that means you can navigate your way with this person. There are bosses that are very difficult. They are very difficult. I've experienced. I think the very first time I came out of school into the workplace, the first person I worked under is the most difficult leader I've ever worked under in this life. I've not worked under anybody that is as difficult as the man. And how the way to handle that kind of situation is, with time you now get to understand. You follow the person the way the person is, something like that. Now the reason why it's a problem in families is because there's an issue of lack of humility somewhere. Especially, let me just say this: many African parents normally believe that, because I'm the parent, they make themselves Lord somehow. So they just believe that, okay, because I'm the parent, the child should automatically just take what I'm saying, or should automatically just follow me or listen to me. Meanwhile, the child has been exposed to some other things that make them disagree with what you are saying. And so now it begins to create a friction there. So in that kind of case, if I want to find a connection with that person, I have to be humble enough to try to understand this person so I can follow them the way they are, so I can still drive the point home after gaining that level of understanding. So in other words, one of the ways to gain level of understanding is when the person is speaking, you are listening not for the purpose of trying to attack them or trying to make your own point known. No, you just think it like, okay, you don't have any point. Let me just try to understand what is the person trying to say first. Sometimes you even ask questions to be sure that you are understanding what the person is trying to say. So if you can navigate a relationship with a difficult boss, you can navigate this particular one. Though of course the pattern will not be the same. When it comes to a boss, you may not have that opportunity to maybe ask questions depending on how the boss is. But in this other part, you can ask questions with the person, because the relationship is not the same as a difficult boss per se. So the way I would say that you navigate it is, in things like this, there is need for humility. There's need for just coming down for a bit to try to understand the person. Many times when we don't try to understand people and we just act out based on the energy that they've given to us, we are bringing ourselves down to their level. What I mean is, so if somebody, for example, gave you a negative energy and you say, okay, aura for aura, I'm going to give the person back. There is no difference between you and the person. Once you do the same thing that the person did to you, that means you are now you just told yourself that I'm now like this person, because there's no difference between what the person did and what you did. It's like you're bringing yourself down to their level. Meanwhile, you can act better than that. But one thing is that is going to require is humility. Just imagine someone now comes down calling you names and all of those kind of things. something in you, if you're the kind of person that believes in aura for aura, you say no, I cannot take this, I cannot. Your body will be shaking and vibrating. You'll be saying aura for aura, no. But if you can just let humility step in at that point and say, no, I don't have to. I can just take this thing in. For example, something happened to me this evening. I went to go and buy something and I wasn't expecting to be that price. And I said, no, I really didn't expect it to be this price. This is not how I bought it. All of a sudden, unexpectedly, I was even shocked. And people were also shocked around me. The kind of insult I received, I said, but what did I say? Someone asked me what's the problem. I told them, I just said that I cannot afford this thing. Then she started screaming. Hey, I was now wondering if someone made her angry before I came. Now I'm not there, but there's part of me that got annoyed. Now, if I'm going to go and use that aura for aura, it's not to shout back, which there is no difference between what the person is doing and what I'm doing. So that it should be useless. So I didn't even bother, I just have to leave that place. Something like that. The reason why I'm saying it is you don't really need to apply the same energy that the person is giving to you. Then this kind of situation also takes patience because the result you are trying to get, you're not going to get it at once. So if you are trying to follow the person, trying to be humble enough to understand where this person is coming from so that you can send your message home or so that you can communicate well, it's going to require patience because for someone that has given up on the entire connection, they're not just going to buy like that. But if they can see that you are trying to build connection in certain areas where you two agree, like you found out that okay, you tend to understand yourselves when it comes to this particular thing, and you can use that to now bond and maybe once in a while you say, okay, but if you agree with me on this thing, then why is it that whenever you do this, and then try to listen to what the person has to say, not from a point of trying to condemn the person and saying no, it's not like that, but try to really understand where that is idea is coming from. Is it that he has heard something in school? Is it that there's something other than that? And then you ask yourself, okay, is there really something strange? My disagreements with this person's opinions, is it coming from my own upbringing, or is it from the fact that okay, I have this belief, maybe it's against your principles and your values? When it's against your principles and your values, it might be because of how you are being brought up, something like that, and that's why maybe you don't agree with the person. Because a lot of things, a lot of our values and our beliefs and our belief systems is formed by the kind of experiences we had, the kind of encounters we had while we are growing up. Maybe when you now grew up, you now changed your experiences, your encounters and your experiences changed. So your beliefs now change, something like that. So you have to find out why they clash first. I don't know if I made it clear. Okay. I don't know if I made
I
it clear.
understand,
But it's not an
you
easy
very well.
journey.
It's okay. Thanks very much for that clarity.
Okay, so I think the time is fast spent. So we need to end the live. But if any of us have any other questions, I would like us to drop it in the Q&A session of this group. There is a Q&A session. Someone already dropped a message and I gave a response. So but we can all drop our questions there if you have anyone. Thank you so much for staying till this time. I celebrate all of you. Thank you so much. We're going to have a similar live again next week, and I'm inviting everybody here too. This all of this is in preparation for the main event EMPA, which is all about a healing journey, taking ourselves through processes to heal from whatever past traumas that we might have been through. So invite as many as you can, and I'll see you then.